Yo, it's Carcat. Real quick, this video is both a tier list video and a semi-map guide, so it's on the longer end, but packed with useful info for any flankers. If you find it helpful, definitely subscribe, and also check out the positioning guide after this one for even more on this topic. Lastly, follow on Twitch to be part of the next video like this. Alright, let's do it. Alright, so we're going to be talking about every single map currently in Marvel Rivals, and which ones are the best and the worst playing as Black Panther. And what we'll do is we'll also jump onto each map as we talk about them, so we can cover why they are in the tier that they are. Starting with Midtown. Midtown is an interesting map. It's a convoy map, so you have that characteristic central road that the payload follows, and then areas on either side. So typically, convoy maps are really, really good for Black Panther. Midtown is a little tricky though, because a lot of the high ground positioning you can't actually stand on, you just fall off. But in general, there are a lot of flanking opportunities for Black Panther. So for example, here's the start of Midtown, right? You have a couple solid options. You can take this flank top right, you can take the flank bottom right, access the supports and the back line from here. You could also take this wider flank around the left side, and that can be decent too. But what's frustrating about this map is that all of the high ground that you see, except for the super obvious high ground, you can't actually stand on. So all around here, you just slide off. All around here, there's nowhere to stand. For some reason, when they made this map, they just didn't want Black Panther to flank on high ground. There are some kind of weird spots on defense, like you can actually stand right here, and as the team walks in, you can jump there, and that's pretty good. On attack or defense, you can stall here. But in general, first point has decent flanks. Second point is really where Panther starts to shine, right? Because you got this whole high ground that you can abuse here. I found that left side is not as strong, because usually as you push in, the team is holding here, and so if you come in from this angle, they will fire directly onto you. End of second point, you can, dance around this high ground, play around here. Finally, on third point is where you start to get some of those high ground positions that you can actually hold. So I love, this is probably one of my favorite spots in the whole game on attack. There's no way they see you here. And then as the team pushes up, you get a free engage. You can obviously wall climb up here, go for an engage here. With all that being said, I would put Midtown in a very solid A tier. It's convoy, which makes it good in general. Solid spots would be stronger if you could hold those high ground positions a bit more easily, but it's a really good map for Panther. Moving on to Hell's Heaven. So Hell's Heaven is the first of our domination maps, and in general, domination maps are tougher for Black Panther. But as far as domination maps go, Hell's Heaven is by far the best one. Now, this map in particular, I would say is maybe one of the tougher ones, but your game plan really is based around holding this high ground and flanking from here on either side. So as you're leaving spawn, I always look for this area that has the stairs, because I know that will lead me to that high ground, and then sit right here. You can jump straight from here, or you can move up a little bit closer and then wall climb and jump from there. The enemy team will bunch up right here. You can hit a 4-man spear and then just dash in and go crazy. Typically, I won't hold on this side of the map, because even though we have some cover here, it's so far from where all the fighting happens that walking up, they usually spot you and start firing away at you. But then as we move on to the next one, this one is by far my favorite for this map, just because of how high the ceilings are. Like, the map really goes up forever. My game plan on this map, almost always trying to start on this high ground and flank this way, but in general, using these pillars for every single engage that I do. So I'm wall climbing up, jumping down from here. Wall climbing up, jumping down from here. And then once you gain point control and some space, you can take some of these flanks around here. This is really good. Again, you can wall climb and attack from this angle, go even deeper if you're going crazier. In my opinion, this is the best one on Hell's Heaven for Black Panther. But then we got this third one. The thing that makes this map tricky is that it moves around a bunch and changes where the best places to hold are. In terms of the central point, it is the most open with the least amount of cover. The best thing to do here, no surprise, try to control the high ground and approach from here. A lot of times when the fight starts, it'll end up in this room, and I wouldn't spend too much time fighting here just because it's hard to hit spears and lander dashes. Once you've capped the point, this is one of the most one-sided points on any domination map to control because of how good the spots are. The enemy team is going to be coming from spawn through this way, and recently my favorite spot to hold, right here. You could also stand here, and you just get free backline engages. They're never going to look at you. Once the map moves, it'll look something like this, where the point is actually right here, and I actually just stand right here. They won't see you. They're going to come through here, and then they're going to go this way, and again, free backline engage. This is a really nice spot. So that's all three maps on Hell's Heaven. As far as domination maps go, it's the best one, and for that reason, another really, really strong A tier. But now we're going to get to some of the rough ones. Every map on the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, so bad. So why is Hall of the Djalia so bad? It really comes down to how oppressive defense can be on the first point, and then how tricky the second and third points are for Black Panther. When it comes to the first point, you usually see one of two things. Half the enemy team holding on this high ground and the other half on the point, or the whole team on high ground or whole team on the point. Either way, your best bet's going to be coming from high ground, but alternatively, you could try to come from this angle. A lot of times you'll see teams push up through here. But look at how open the point is. This is one of the scariest spots to be. Defense is so oppressive on this map, and your options on defense are not great. Typically what I do is just hold on this bridge, wait for them to walk up, and then just see what I can get. And then once the fight moves to the point, again, same thing. You just look for any opening you can, but you're so vulnerable. Then we move on to the second point, and again, so open, right? Just to get to any good high ground positioning, you have to gain so much space that you can get up to here or get up to here or get some value going through this building. I'd say the most reliable place to flank is going to be this room, where you have the option to jump through here or flank even deeper on this bridge and go backline. But honestly, everything is super scary on this map. And characters like Namor, Bucky, Punisher, Star-Lord, they all do a great job of denying your value. And then finally, third point, we've got some good options for high ground on the right, but I talked about this in the Sinatra VOD review. This point is especially scary. These columns do nothing for cover. All these high ground positions have no cover whatsoever. You can try to play in these hallways, that's what I usually do, and look for picks on supports who are usually holding around here. But pushing through this choke and getting value as Black Panther on this map, very, very tough. And for that reason, Hall of the Djalia, honestly, I think it's C tier. I think it's truly C tier. It's not the worst of the worst. It's doable, but it's not great. And then we've got Birnin T'Challa, which I've said time and time again is Black Panther's worst map. I mean, we can basically pre-fire this into F tier, but let's talk about why. Warrior Falls, I hate with a burning passion. It's got all the telltale signs of a hard map for Black Panther. Not a lot of great high ground positions to hold, a completely open central point, and a lot of the fighting either happens on point or in these very narrow hallways. And here, there's just no verticality whatsoever for you to take advantage of. I mean, in an ideal world, if you're able to take this position, that's great, and you can jump down on the team. But realistically, when you're walking up, you're looking at it from this kind of angle, there's just not much for you to do, which is why normally I just try to get to point and play off of what my team does. So let's say the enemy team's coming in this way and your team's fighting this way, you take a flank this way, or even go up above and drop down. Now, at this point, again, similar issues. You got this massive expanse of a point, and you have to try to play around it. There are off angles you can take from here and around here, but the off angles themselves are so far away from where the team is going to be fighting. There's a solid chance you'll be too slow, that when you get here, you'll just get lit up. And as far as abusable high ground goes, I mean, these ramps get destroyed, the central part gets destroyed. The only place where Black Panther is really pretty solid is when you have point control and the team is pushing up through here. And you can do a lot of things, wall climb here, fish for spears. You can also hold up here and look for an engage this way. This would be your ideal. How could I forget Spaceport? Forget everything I said about Warrior Falls being the worst map for Black Panther. This is the worst map for Black Panther. You want to see wide expanse of an open point with barely any cover? You got it. This map is a nightmare. As far as cover on the central point, you got these tiny walls that you can kind of use, but not really. But let's say, you're coming from spawn, their team has point control. Your options for the approach are terrible. You can walk main. Bad idea if they're holding right here. You can walk this way. Still kind of a bad idea because they'll fire on you this way. And then finally, come all the way around here and flank this way. But then look at this. You just come from this flank and have zero cover whatsoever. You got to get creative on this map. It's atrocious. Then let's say you have point control and your team is holding here. I mean, you can sit main and fish for spears where your team's holding. I've done that. You can come around this way, but this is super far. There's just nothing good for you on this map. It's just all misery. You might say like, okay, well, this is kind of good. If they walk up here, you can get a spear and then go boom, 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 boom. Dude, the last time I did that was months ago. Honestly, no one comes here anymore because there's no point. You just know you're going to get one shot. So Birnin T'Challa, very, very deserved F tier. Just the worst map in the game for Black Panther. Swapping to Star-Lord here has felt pretty good. Okay, Clintar. Clintar is an interesting one. One of the harder parts is the first point, of course, because of how open it is. There's decent cover around, we got these boxes. They're not terrible. We got this little area over here. We got the area over here, obviously. The number one best flank you can take, in my opinion, is going deep around right side and sitting right here behind this wall. Usually the supports will be holding in here or around here, and it's not too bad to just come in this way and spear dash them as soon as your team pushes in. In a world without the worst Panther counters, this is a decent point, and then you get to the convoy aspect. Again, every convoy map follows the same framework. You got this main path, and then you're going to be looking at flanks on the right and flanks on the left. And the question you always have to ask yourself on convoy maps is which one should you take, the right or the left flank? So if the team has, say, a Star-Lord here or someone's hard holding top right, I would recommend either going deep this way and looking for a support pick as soon as your team pushes in, or going deep left, coming up to this high ground. This gets a lot of value, and people overlook this left flank. Flank here, and then as soon as your team pushes in, you go bang, bang, bang. Then once you get to the end of third point, I usually stage right here and wait to see. If there's supports that I can go on the point, I'll just jump there. If not, I'll improve my position and go deeper left side. This hallway can be a really good place to pick up some kills. They start filtering in and you just go bang, bang, bang. Third point, this is all usually free space. Enemy team's gonna be holding here. They're gonna be trying to fire in on this choke. Your job is to pick either the left side flank or the right side flank and help put pressure on the back line. My new favorite place to hold on this map that I found when I was making the positioning guide, the roof of this hut is very, very good. When you sit up here, they can't really see you because it's on high ground and you have this little horn as cover, and you just get a free engage. I hold here on attack and defense. defense. As they push in, you can jump the backline. When the enemy team is holding, you can jump the backline. Once you get to the last part of the third point, it becomes a bit more of a free-for-all, but if you can control this high ground, that's really good. Also, flanking around the right side of the tree, of course, is very good. A lot of people don't like playing Clintar, but personally, I think it's truly a solid B tier. Top of B, maybe bottom of A on a really good day. All right, Central Park, the new map. This is a Panther map. This map is phenomenal. It's hybrid, but the first point has great flanks. Second point could not be better for Panther. Starting with first point, if you're on defense, I like to start out here. And as the team pushes up, you look for picks on the backline this way. Very, very strong. The best flank on attack, you can hold right here. There's a little bit of cover and you wait for your team to push up. Now the approach is doable, but once you actually get to fighting on point, it can be tough. This point is very scrappy, very brawly. My best advice is to retreat to this high ground when you need to, or even over here, and just look for the backline supports as much as you can. But then we get to second point, and damn is it good. You have just an absolute Black Panther playground on the left here. In particular, this roof is very good to hold, and you can keep improving your position until you end up going on the backline wherever you need to. And even these spots on the right, this is one of the best spots for defense. If their team's gonna be pushing in, you got this whole wall for cover, and whenever you want, you can jump. One of my favorite spots, you know I love roofs. This roof, very, very fun on both attack and defense. And you can approach from the other side, right? Come up this way. Now this is unfortunately where things get hard. Third point, not great for Black Panther. Honestly, third point attack is not great for anybody. This point is really hard to push. And the reason? This section right here. Your team has to push up these stairs and there's no cover whatsoever. That being said, you've still got some great flanks. Right side flank coming from here. Left side flank coming from here. But if I had to rate the flanks out of 10, honestly, I give them like a 6 because you're walking up with no cover and you have to cover a lot of distance. But say your team is able to make it into this room right here, you're probably in decent shape. You know I love vertical ceilings. You can do a lot of wall climbing here. Supports are going to be holding in these kind of spots. So there's a lot you can do to jump the supports, and then you just got to push the payload right there. So because of all that, I think you have to put this in at least the top of A, but I got to put it bottom of S tier. It is a really, really good Panther map. Now we get to talk about my favorite map to play Black Panther. Spider Islands. This map is just the best. It's of course a matter of opinion, but if you ask me what is Black Panther's best map, I think it's this one. And if I had to tell you why in one word, rooftops. As a contrast to Midtown, almost every single high ground position that you could want to take, you can and stand on without sliding off. So first point, if you're trying to play super aggressive, you can hold here. Even more aggressive, but not on as high of a high ground, you can hold over here. You can hold here. My favorite spot is holding right here. All of this you can walk on. And so what that means is for this entire stretch of payload, there's just a crazy rooftop that you can control and jump the backline whenever you want. Then as you move to the end of first point, again, this roof is good. This high ground is good if you can hold it. If your team has point control and the enemy team is walking back, you can hold right here. If you're feeling really saucy, you can actually stand on this roof. Attack or defense. This roof right here is a great spot to stage, and then just really nice flank routes. And that's just first point. If you thought first point was good, second point, honestly, it might even be better. Look at the roofs. Almost every single roof. This is your kingdom, as far as the eyes can see. But you can hold here, and as they're pushing up through here, jump them whenever you want. And then just the best roof in the game, you can hold anywhere along here. This entire stretch of path that the payload has to push, you can jump from any point. Now that being said, a lot of these roofs are destructible. If they see you and shoot you, then you're going to lose your high ground. On attack and defense, this roof is also really good. You can stand up here. Weirdly, you can't stand on this, but that's fine. Now, third point is for sure the worst of the 3 points, but it's by no means bad. On attack, your best bet is going to be to come up through here and try to control this sort of area, right? Because they're going to be holding this way. So a lot of times you have the supports holding here, the tanks holding here. If you can sneak this way, then you're good. Even better, of course, controlling this high ground is very strong. But a lot of times I might even bias left side and use this to wall climb, either here or wall climb here. I can eventually drop that way. Some people might be wondering about this flank here. I almost never take it. It takes a long time, and I mean, you end up over here and there's just not a lot of cover. One pretty saucy spot on defense is you can actually hold right here. As they walk up, you go this way. Or if they walk through here, even better. A million spots to hold, the best high ground in the game, so much you can do and work with. That's top of S tier. For sure, top of S tier. Our other Tokyo map, Shin Shibuya, let's talk about it. First point, Shin Shibuya has a ton of extremely strong high ground that you can take on attack and defense, where they're never even going to look up at you even once. And you can just jump in whenever you want. What I love to do is start here, wait until I see a tank right there, and then wall climb, slide down, and then jump the backline. And 9 times out of 10, what you see is like a support here and a support here, and you're just standing right here. And it's just the freest backline engage you'll ever see in your entire life. On attack, plan A is to go right here. The supports are always holding holding either on point or high ground. So you get really nice access here. You can transition this way if you need to. But a lot of times there's someone holding up here, like a Hela or a Star-Lord or a Psylocke. If that's the case, plan B is to try to control this high ground. And what you get is this really nice nook that you can just hang out with, tons of cover, and then jump. Now, sometimes there'll be a Star-Lord or a Namor or whoever holding here too. But in these cases, it's close enough to your team that I think you can actually just take that 1v1 most of the time and force them off. You just have infinite opportunity to improve your position with as much time as you have, and then you jump on point when you need to. First point, double S tier. Amazing. Second point and third point, honestly, it can get really tough. When I found this spot right here, I started using it all the time. I think it's really good. A lot of times they don't look up at you, but if they do, you do kind of have to back off. Otherwise, your only two real options are taking this area, which I don't love, and then going like a wide flank around here, which I also don't love. Why that's not as strong is because the supports are going to fall back this way. So you kind of just have to do your best with the flanks that you're given. Third point, I'd say, is better. I think there's more cover on the flanks, and you've got a lot of options for what you can do. But third point flanks are tough because you have to go through such narrow areas, and if they catch you here, they might kill you pretty easily, or you just have to back off. There's not a ton of flexibility. So honestly, I don't have a system for this point. It's really just Black Panther fundamentals. You usually don't want to do this. You want to come from here or from here. Honestly, I'm thinking maybe right under Central Park, right above but I feel like Midtown's better than Shin Shibuya. Midtown just feels more reliable, whereas Shin Shibuya is so heavily weighted on the first point being good, but the second and third point just don't feel that great. Okay, the last two maps we've got are Yggdrasil Path and Royal Palace. Let's start with Royal Palace. All right, Royal Palace is a massive mixed bag. That's primarily because of Odin's Archive, but we'll get to that. So this one is really just kind of a run-of-the-mill domination map with a decent amount of cover. You can play around this. I love to play on this high ground here. Let's say the enemy team is pushing in this way. You can kind of jump here. You can jump here. Once you have point control, you can kind of take this sort of positioning and wall climb on this to jump the back line. And then if you want, just in general, you can take a wider flank around here. Solid options. It's not great. It's not terrible. A definite trend on domination maps for Black Panther is taking point control is very tough, but keeping it is much better. So on this particular map, usually I'm just living around here. If you're fighting either on point or around here, you're probably in danger and it's not going to feel great. But when the enemy team is fighting on point and you can hold up here, jumping the back line is not too tough. A lot of times the supports will hold here or here and the tanks will be fighting on point. When the enemy team is trying to push high ground, you can sit either right here or wall climb on this giant statue thing and then approach from height and spear. Okay, well I said Birnin T'Challa's Spaceport was maybe Black Panther's worst map. Odin's Archive definitely gives it a run for its money. I actually might have to say this is the worst Black Panther map in the game. I think this is the worst map in the game, period. You will not find a more awkward map to play around. High ground all feels really weird because there's zero cover up top and the angles you have are not great in terms of vantage. It can all be broken. The off angles you can take on the low ground are just small and not super useful. You kind of get forced to brawl on point. A support jumping up and down on these jump pads over and over again might be one of the most annoying map features in the game. Following the usual theme though, holding point feels much better. Usually the enemy team is walking up here and you have a decent amount of options. So yeah, Royal Palace in general, honestly, like bottom of B, top of C. I think top of C is where it belongs. Some good and some bad. It's got Odin's Archive, which honestly should put it in F, that alone. But okay, last one. Yggdrasil Path. I mean, this is just a phenomenal map. I love this map so much as Black Panther. First and third point can be a little awkward, but overall there's just a lot of stuff you can do. On attack, there are a bunch of different rollouts you can take, all of which have pros and cons. The Karkat rollout, where you take this high ground, maybe do a little wall climb, and either look to spear dash someone on this high ground or go straight for the supports. Pretty aggressive, you usually get blown up when you do it. I'm like 50-50 on this, it's not great. Alternatively, you've got the Gex rollout, which is really reliable. You come through here, all the way around here, and then attack this high ground. You have covered the entire time. If you get tagged on the way in, there's a health pack right here, and it just makes it really easy to contest this and eventually get to your ideal spot. And then finally you've got, I don't know, you could call it like the Mogus rollout. That's who I first saw do it, which is left side, either coming through here or, any of these doors. This is honestly not my favorite, although I've tried it a couple times, and mainly it's because usually the supports are right here, and that's just a bit too far. And this cover is very bad. Now, once your team takes some space and you're able to push up to here, the best spot for you to hold is going to be either around left side and engaging this way, or my favorite spot is right here. This is amazing. If you're not being contested, you just get a free dive on the backline. But once all that brawling starts happening here, I would recommend trying to control this high ground and then re-engaging with your cooldowns when you can. Second point is fun. You get a really nice high ground off angle that has a conservative and an aggressive option. The aggressive option is coming through here and jumping the backline this way. The conservative option is you can actually tiptoe your way along this thing. So you can pick your poison based on how much space your team is taking. I generally don't recommend taking this right side because there's just not that much cover. And then finally, third point is quite awkward. You have to decide between three main options. Either you take a wide flank this way, which is a little spooky because there's not that much cover. You take this slight high ground here and try to jump the supports this way, or you can full commit to a super deep flank, which is a bit higher risk because you're coming through such a narrow choke, but it gives you direct access to the backline. And finally, as you approach third point, ideally you're able to control this, but playing around here is also quite good because there's a lot of kind of scattered cover that you can use. This is a very scrappy area, so you kind of just do what you can. But Yggdrasil Path, I think it's one of the better convoy maps. If you compare it with Clintar or like Hall of the Djalia, I'm honestly starting to like this better than Shin Shibuya. Shin Shibuya has more of that X factor where you can have a really good game. Yggdrasil Path, a bit more consistent, a bit more reliable. And I think that feels pretty good. So there you go. Your finished map tier list. This is my personal opinion on what are the best and worst maps for Black Panther, as well as kind of brief map guides on how to play each one. So hopefully you found that helpful and subscribe. Subscribe.